Hello, and thank you for joining us, our show. Everything's open. Here we have in the studio Rav Laitman. Hello, everyone. And today we're talking about violence in the family. We have Ilanit Yazalski, a social worker, and she deals with couples. And Iran, who is a therapist for violence in the family. And you're welcome to join us. We want to clarify, along with Rav Laitman, how we can develop treatment of violence in the family in a better way through our integral approach that we're developing here. And I would like to open the discussion with you telling me a bit about where you came from, your background. Give us some numbers. We're dealing with an issue that is very sensitive because the social state in Israel has reached a point where there's like 200,000 women being beaten, violent men, and 600,000 kids that are witnessing this. On average, it's an average that's going up. And there's a very big issue. What are we doing? The work is very hard and intensive. And along with that, I can't say that the results match what we're doing. It's on an increase. And there's a very serious problem. There's no shortage of people dealing with the problem. How many? There's like 27 centers for preventing violence and 13 shelters for victims. And there are many other ways to be treated. Family treatment where they bring the kids in. There's many programs. There's even a prison Hermon, where there's a unit that deals with violence in the family, where men come there who beat their women. It's not easy. Now there's lots of budgets. It's called a city without violence throughout the country, but it's still on the rise all the time in the numbers and also the level, the stories that I'm hearing throughout the years are more difficult, are harder stories. And the children are not hit. But there's usually a hierarchy where the man hits the woman. And the kids who see this, research shows that they absorb it and then they become beaten women or men who beat. It really continues onward and rolls onward. And there's no opposite. There is. That men are hit. Yes, there's even a case in this year, the year before, two men were killed by their wives. And there's also other cases of women hitting their men and murdering their men. But I think the men are still in a great difficulty to say, I've been hit violently, I'm a man, so it's difficult for them to admit it. The verbal violence is also very big. The big shock is not only that it's more existent, but it's more physical, and it ends in murder. Women are the society isn't so shocked from verbal violence. It's a phenomenon. We know that the more we advance, if we can call it advancing, humanity is developing through its ego that is always growing from generation to generation and becomes more and more not even under control of the person, of man. There are such explosive things inside a person that he can't even stop himself. I understand those that are losing their head and are becoming violent. It's from our nature. That is really reaching terrible the ego is conquering the person and directing him and warping him to all these bad things. Apart from violence in the family in general, what's happening in the street, what's happening in society, in every place, not just with us. It wasn't so suitable for Israel, for Jewish families. There was always a basis. It didn't even exist. In the last years, especially, it's come up. But it's clear what the reason is. It's the general evil, the ego. And what do you usually do to prevent this or treatment? We work in different places. So maybe describe the process. There's a family, there's violence. Explain the process. Let's say there's violence. In many cases, we don't know about it. The social work, we hear about a murder and nobody in the system knew about it at all. If the woman goes through a process from years before, she can complain in the police, and then the police faxes to our centers a brief of what happened with the cell phones of both parties, the women and the men. And they let them know that they can come to the center. They don't have to come. We try to encourage them to come to the prevention center. And of course, more women come. There's 2/3 women and just 1/3 men. And part of them just come because they've gone into a legal process. So their lawyer recommends that they come, or their judge gives them officer, supervisor, and they have a probation officer, and they have to come. They don't have a choice. There's like 10% approximately that come out of free will. They see that their families are coming apart, and they don't know what to do. Most of them are not men that are like the ones that come to us. They're not like criminals. They're working people. They experienced violence in the houses they grew up in, but they're people that work. They're high-level people at times. It's usually, sometimes they have very good connections with friends. They have positive attributes. Their friends tell them great things about them, but when they come home, these men feel great fear that the woman might leave them in many cases. They feel a huge threat. Any little thing the woman says insults them emotionally more than the average person. And then they have the outburst. They lose their head. They have a need to control the woman. They live with this constant fear inside of them that the woman might leave them for someone else. They feel that they're not worth anything. Many of them are depressed. They're depressed. Some of them were addicted to drugs, alcohol. I work with women and men, and I think what I'm trying to do at work is to build a new backbone, whether it's for the women or for the men or both of them together. But still, in my feeling, there's a very big question. You said that the ego is growing more. I would like to understand the fact that the ego is growing more and leading us to a state where a person in a second can blow up to reach a state because his desire is so great, he can't fill it. He doesn't understand how to get out of this conflict, this fear, pressure, inner pressure. He has to unload it. And then you have the outburst. His demands are also because his nature that is a desire that is growing all the time. He's demanding more and more, and he has nothing to fill himself with. He feels threats apparently for no reason. But we see that depression today is maybe half the world is depressed. Even animals are experiencing depression. On the one hand, depression. On the second hand, there's the stress. So there's a place for an inner explosion, and he has to get it out. Who will he take it out on? At work, he's stressed out. On the street, everyone's driving him crazy. He comes home. It's the only place. And then it's enough for the woman to say half a word, and he has a reason to break out. The question is, we're not blaming the men. It appears to me, let's say, I would first of all reach a state where I wouldn't even think of blaming them, but rather to understand them, to treat them. They are truly, it's like a sickness, a disease. Each and every one of us is under stress, but they are under bigger stress. They have, there's all kinds of fears, but for them it's even more. This connection between fears is what making this inner explosion, fear and anxiety. He doesn't know where he is at that moment. Therefore, I think that the first stage has to be very soft. The approach has to be that we come to him, we start talking to him in a way that we understand him, we are participating in his situation. More than him, we understand what problem he has, and that it's not his personal problem, but rather a general problem for everyone. That everyone is under the stress and anxiety and pressures. But with him, it's reached even greater stress. And so we understand why he has these outbursts. We don't want to get to a point where he won't be violent in the family. We want him to get rid of all these negative feelings. We want to solve him from his inner problem and not these external results. I work with usually 10 men like that in a group. So what would you suggest in a workshop like that? What tools to use? I think first of all, I don't know how the alcoholics do it. Yes, the ones that are addicted to alcohol. Those that we don't know about. But first of all, I would sit them around a table. And I would have a discussion with them where everyone tells the other what situations he's in and what stress. First of all, for him to get everything out, to hear the others, what states they're in. Difficulties in life in general, yeah. What he feels. What is the source of the pressure? He needs to talk about it, because if he has an outburst, he's not talking. He's just trying to control. He's demonstrating control. He's trying to unload the stress. So here, let him unload. Everyone talks about it, and here, maybe you shouldn't be by yourself. There should maybe, yes, we're two of us. You turn the discussion around. And the first question should be, why? Where does it come from us? And what feelings do we truly have that we cannot control? There's a problem with the men that come to the center. There's this title, the Center for Prevention of Violence, so they feel ashamed out on the outside that they have to come to a place where people know that they're violent, and they try to deny to don't speak of it at all. The conversation has to be like I'm talking now, that there's a phenomenon in humanity, that our egos are growing, and stress and pressure, and everyone's in depression, and everyone needs antidepressants, and everyone's under stress, and this is all around the world, and it's not something personal of theirs. Everyone. Some people make dolls for us to hit. There's states where people go into a room and scream. Some go to dancing. Not for nothing, all those. Once did we have waltz, tango. Once we had the waltz, and now it's all like very high speed because it's from the inner stress. You always want to show them where those good old movies. Now it's all killing and shooting, and every movie there's like 2,000 people killed. It's a result of the general stress and frustration that all of humanity is in. So a person, first of all, spills everything out. Oh, first you say to them, no one here is special. Japanese hit the dolls. Others go to the gym. These go dancing. Everyone has to get it out of their system. A person has to get rid of the stress. So the fact that they have stress and all kinds of difficult situations is like everyone. But the fact that they take it out this way is not the problem. It's natural. Now, and you maybe tell them, show them a few clips that tell about the general phenomenon. The main thing that it's general. Show them movies. I don't know, but it's not my field, but there must be a lot. In these short clips or short movies, they're talking about a global phenomenon, but not a global phenomenon of violence. No, not violence, stress. Just stress. And now the question is, how do we help ourselves get this out of our system in a different way? That's it. We're just teaching you how to navigate ourselves to another direction. We're not saying to them, shut your mouth and tie your hands up. That's impossible. You want to get it out and feel healthier and better. The stress, this is what you get diseases and problems from. And even slightly exaggerated. All these things bring on real serious outbursts. You are separating things. You're saying it's not the woman, but rather it's something general. Of course, I don't think it's the woman. It's not that I'm having this outburst because she's aggravating me. You have to explain to him that if he didn't have a wife, if he just had a poor dog, he would take it out on the dog. He would break the furniture, it doesn't matter what. The problem is how, in the standard way, to allow all this pressure to come out of the body. Just like there's a problem, we have to open it and clean it if there's a wound. They suggest talking to them deeper about their feelings, experiences they went through when they were children. Do you see any point in that? No, I don't think so. I think they get justification like that for their behavior. I went through a difficult childhood, and therefore, and etc. It's not good. After we say it belongs to everyone, this problem, and that there's no choice for the modern man to solve this problem in all ways, then we need to see how we can solve it, which ways we can solve it. So first of all, everything that we spoke of up till now, we try to get them to talk about it between them so that they'll feel that everyone has the same problem. And even if this table is with a billion people sitting here, everyone has something to say because everyone is under stress. There's wars, there's violence in the street. What's happening? Look at the street. In every place. It's a general problem. And let them talk about it more. How you go here and at work and on the way to work, so that they'll see that these things are not personal. And in that you already bring him to the general philosophical outlook. Just like a doctor looking at a general disease. Take him out of his niche to a bigger situation. That's one. And the second thing is, in what way do you think it's possible to solve the problem? You show him that it has nothing to do with the woman. Even if you're suspicious of her, she's annoying you, put your socks in the wrong place, the coffee's not okay. I think we need to educate her. We'll leave her aside. It's not her. The stress is your stress, and look what's happening everywhere. Does it happen when you're calm? No, it doesn't. It's just a result. Not every single night you go and start hitting her. But of course, it's when you're under stress and she really you're right, she really sometimes puts a word into something and there's like a trigger. But it depends at the end of the day on your preparation. How much you're ready to have an outburst. So we can do stuff in advance. We can preempt the situation. What activities can we do to unload the stress? Some people go dancing. Some people go to the gym. Some people buy a bicycle and go bicycling every evening. Some people start a hobby at home. Building something, doing something. Everyone has to try to find something that suits him. A question like you said, what acts can we do to get rid of the stress? Is it possible to sit everyone in a circle and that everyone will say, we'll give him a minute to say, a minute to talk, and the rest listen? Exactly. That's the whole hour and a half, or just part of it? Part of the treatment, they're listening to what you're saying. They're seeing clips. They're talking about the problem itself. And then there's also a place for talking in a circle. And you don't argue with one another, you just listen. Everything you're going through with them, they need to speak about between them. If they don't speak between them, it won't go in. He has to hear it from others, not from you. Somebody who even repeating what you say, he understands more, he identifies it with it more, because they're talking about all kinds of problems and troubles. They're talking about how to solve the problem. Each person gives all kinds of advice, and that's very important. As much as possible, make a list, what they think, what's better, what's less, who's more successful, making stuff up to get rid of the stress. Maybe they can write an article. Even if they're simple people, it doesn't matter. They can write something about these things. On the internet, there's also places where people write about it. Of course. So also about that, let's talk. As a group of 10 people, let's open our own page and we'll start working with our idea toward others. Make them creative. First, you gave them the understanding that it doesn't belong to them, it belongs to the whole world. And now you give them a stage to be the therapist for the whole world. Not that they're treating themselves, but others. And they have to come up with ideas. And they're going out now instead of you, so to speak. They're taking over your job. But you understand that if they relate like that to others, then they themselves will understand and get rid of all these things. That's one of the ideas, to raise them to another level. I want to understand this because it's important. What does it mean? Make them more mature, above their problem. But while they're in the problem or after? Of course, while they're in the problem, you're saying, come now, let's play a game. A group like through the internet is treating other people and helping them how to get rid of these outbursts at home. What do you suggest? What do you recommend for these types of people with this problem or that problem? Bring them up a level. You want to give them responsibility? Yes. Not just responsibility. We're transferring them from the side of the act to becoming a treater, a therapist, a doctor, a healer. So he actually becomes important to himself. He has self-respect. He begins to understand the problem more. He understands the other person and explains to him that these things there's no choice, there's pressure. And on the other hand, how much these outbursts are things they don't have control over. And they're truly ready in situations like this to kill someone. And on the other hand, how they can help to get them into mutual treatment. This is an idea. It's very psychological. Works very well. They have to be partners and everything. It's already like behind him, so he gets respect, and it's a situation. It's immediately to make them like that. Iran asked you before about the nature of the discussions between them. Him and another instructor are hosting the conversation. They're all in a circle and talking and giving each other advice about everything, about the world, about the street, and at work, at home, with the kids. They need to talk and talk and talk. They need to build inside the concept, the system, what is happening with this problem in general, that he's in just like others. You're not standing him on trial, but just the opposite. We're, as much as possible, trying to look at the problem from the outside, from the side, all of us. And afterward, we discuss it as if it's not about us, the problem itself. Nobody tells about himself. I'm not telling him, how do you hit and why and who and what? No, nobody Everyone has their respected place. But to raise the good way they perceive themselves and others perceive them, we're dealing with a world issue, global issue. Otherwise, a person feels more depressed and more stressed than before. So he has to come out of himself. You have to cause them to come out of themselves. He has to feel like a different person. And through the internet, I think they can treat other groups and give advice to other people. That would immediately pull him out of it. Every sick person wants to be a doctor. That's a known phenomenon. But what about the relations between them? Does there have to be some rules in this conversation? Is somebody going to come and say what he would do and somebody else can say, but you don't do that actually? No. Things like that aren't said there. We're regular people. We know this issue and we're going to deal with it. Not about us. We're not going to criticize one another. No, not at all. God forbid. It's a friendly talk between them. And they talk between them. And it's like 10 experts sitting and talking about the phenomenon. And through their experience and through the discussion where they're verifying how to approach others, we talk about how to deal with it. How can we help the other get out of this problem? How would you define, if we go into details of this group, how would you define the limits or framework of the group? What are the rules? The rules of the conversation, the dialogue. I think that it can be in a round table, in a circle. It's just 10 people. It doesn't really have to be a circle. But I think it has to be material that we present to them, clips, all kinds of situations with the cars, teenagers in all kinds of places, etc. Like the things we talked about at the beginning. And then how to unload the stress, get rid of the fears, anxiety, how much people are stressed. That's 2. 3, that there's an entire industry, how to give people to de-stress. Dancing, gyms, they hit dolls, all kinds of things where a person can de-stress. Takes pills and all kinds of stuff. Takes pills for anxieties and fears. And afterward, what do we still do? If we go to people like that in an anonymous manner through the internet, and what can we recommend to them? To all these things, the point of it all is to get to a discussion in all 5 stages. After we give them material, questions and answers, and a discussion between them. So I'm asking about the rules of the discussion. If I say to them, let's have a discussion, they're only talking about themselves. Nobody asks what's happening with the other. It's like 10 experts are sitting there who understand the phenomenon, and now they're verifying it and want to find a solution, a global solution that the whole world can learn from. How will it influence the mothers afterwards when they go home to their wives? He'll feel like an expert. He'll feel respectful, like he truly has a special background. He'll want to be in your place. He'll feel the opposite of what he felt before when he came home. He'll come home happily and be happy to participate in such workshops. Is there any point in the workshop strengthening the connection between them? Possibly, I'm not sure. But I think the direction has to be, the connection between them can be that they are now opening a page on the internet and are writing together some article or letter, giving advice, stories, anonymously, of course, and how they recommend getting out of it, how they think you can get rid of this inner stress. What do they advise a woman to do in a state like this? Possibly, but that's very, very sensitive. It depends on how much they advanced. And then you can start working on the relations between them. And here there's also the question, how can we be, what kind of relationship can we be in with our spouse? That she'll understand that he's getting special treatment and begin giving him respect. Because he's not just a regular person, but a person that is going and treating others, got this important mission, social mission, dealing with a global problem, etc. And really to raise him up, to encourage him. Women need to know it, but also in a very sensitive way, because there's very simple women that will speak very directly. You have to give him. So you're saying that whoever's hosting the workshop needs to be in touch with the women? Aren't you in touch with the women? What happens in Israel is actually we get the task after the violence is over, so they're actually separated. The woman has gone to a shelter or to her mother, and she stays there, and he stays at home. And then there's more depression, more violence when she comes home. And then it'll escalate when she comes home, and he might even murder her the next time she comes back. His fear from this abandonment is so great that it escalates more and more. So here we need to truly see what the connection is between them, and gradually try in some manner to bring them to a discussion at the end of the process, after a few meetings. So you're talking about both. It's important not to break up the family. You need to bring them in so that they will both be in the process. From a certain moment onward, you will be able to add women in, but first give them the same intro that the man received. Let the women see everything. Let them see it. They will understand what the men are going through, and tell them that we are actually preparing. When they see how the men are talking, how they're already above the problem, how they themselves are becoming doctors, psychologists, that they're rising above their ego. That's the idea. To give a person the tools to rise above his ego, to see himself, his evil inclination. And then we include women. After they saw the material, we release this material. then we bring them in also to take part with the men, not separately, in advanced stages of the group. If women separately first, I'm not sure. Those are things, each thing needs maybe to be discussed. But the conclusion has to be that they're meeting and talking about it. They see the problem. Again, it's a general problem, a worldwide problem of stress, of outbursts, and all these things. That together they're doing it. And now both of them, 10 men and 10 women, these 10 couples, they are actually now also on the internet and all kinds of treating other people, helping. They are above the problem itself. It will give women a sort of hope. I think so. We are raising them. They received a psychology attitude to life. They got a big helping what this problem is, etc. I didn't understand exactly the stages in adding the women. There's 10 men, and after we understood the process they're going through, we say at some point we're going to start adding in the spouse. So let's say, for example, we're filming the men's activity. From a certain stage, they meet like once a week. Maybe to invite women at the same time, not with them together, and do the same, not the same series, but similar meetings. So they will also understand the problem and understand that it's not the man himself. For women, it's easier to absorb these things, digest. And what we're striving toward. What do you mean, learn as couples? That if you're doing something alongside the men, then you invite women at a separate time, a few meetings by themselves. That's the first stage. So I have a group of men that are advancing and a group of women that joined the process, but separately. Then you will see when you're able to. So I would film both of them because there's value. If I'm a woman and you're my man, and I see that in your group you're really starting, I don't think you can show it to women. It's still the man's ego. But showing what the men are doing and showing the women, so she'll want to connect with him. This gives her security if she sees that he's advancing. So what do I have with women? We have meetings alongside the men with the same therapists. And I have videos showing how the men are advancing. And then when you feel, what's the next stage? When you feel they're ready? I'm not sure exactly, but you have to prepare them for that there's going to be a meeting together. 10 women and 10 men? I would do it 50, as many as possible. So there will be groups together that come together, that they come to like a convention, a speech, there's refreshments, soft, like a day of learning. But only those who have gone through the process. So the whole thing would be more expanded. That will reduce the stress between them. Everything becomes easier. So let's say that's what they're striving for. Let's say we can't connect the groups because of technical problems. 10 couples is quite small for something like this. They need to see themselves inside a bigger mass of people. But let's say it's possible. It's not the end of the world, right? In this first connection where you brought women and men, doesn't matter the number. Explain this meeting to me, please. We're going to treat others. We're not treating ourselves. We're not talking about what we had. We're different people now. There's nothing left of what there was before. We have a mission in life to treat others. It's like you give a criminal a year of probation to clean the streets, community work, community service, but here it's obligation. The fact that we're inviting them from the beginning, at the end of the day, we're bringing them to treat other people. It's work that they have to carry out. And in that way, we solve the problem. They paid their dues, let's say. And now, along with women, they are dealing with other couples. They're finding other couples on the internet. They're helping them, writing to them. But they need to know and feel that they have risen above the problem, that they are higher than the problem itself. That is the only way you can be sure that they'll be okay. What do you mean it will gradually disappear, the phenomena? I would also like you to explain. Same thing with the kids. You want to do something with the kid? You make him a teacher. That's it. I feel that this first meeting between the men and women is very critical for the positive development onward. So I haven't clarified exactly what has to happen in that meeting. I have to see. I don't really know the material, these people. You have to, I don't know these parts of society, what interests them, whether they're on the internet or if not internet, then other groups, other cases. Maybe we'll hook up families to each other, or we'll invite the new people where there's problems in the family, but not the kind where they've run away from each other. Maybe we'll make a special evening, and those that are already corrected, let's say, come and they meet with them and they talk to them, and then with the refreshments and everything, they talk and they mix with them. There has to be, and then for sure, you are making them active, important to themselves and to the public. They're doing excellent work in every place. You can send them. You can suddenly call in and say, I have a couple that's not getting along. I don't know what to do. Maybe you'll treat them. That's it. You send them, and they take them out for coffee and stuff. They talk, one couple to the other. Only after that. That is the only way you can get rid of the phenomena. That's the only way you can rise above his problem. People who are addicted to drugs and alcohol, they have what you say. There's some that, even without experts, they talk about their problems. And usually, Whoever's hosting are people that got out of it, people that are no longer addicted. But you're skipping this stage of the core of the treatment because the therapists go in. But now he doesn't have that problem. He doesn't have outbursts. He's in treatment. It's after he's gone through very intensive and long treatment and drugs. He has to get rid of them. Here, what is he getting rid of? He's just getting rid of this hitting. It also is sort of addiction, but through treatment. By treating others, that will hold him together. He will rise above it. I'm not sure that the point that you raised. She said that according to the methods that they have today, you're talking about a few principles. The most important one is that by taking a people from being a problematic case to treat other people, you've upgraded him and everything. She said they're doing that to a certain extent today with people who are addicted to drugs, and they do it after a preliminary stage where a person goes through a process with himself, treatment, where he becomes clean from the negative and the dynamics you're explaining here. It's like you sort of skipped over this stage. There's no stage where a person goes through a process of, there's no treatment for him being violent. Why? They learned what it's called an ego, what outbursts are, depression, stress. They know it's a global phenomenon. They know they have to rise above it. They know they have to de-stress. They know they need it. So they either need to use the dolls or go dancing. You're raising them. You're always giving them some power, how to come together, deal with the problem. And after they recognize that they need it, what is the treatment itself? That he begins treating others. This phase where he begins treating others, does it have to come right at the beginning alongside all the other stuff, or after a bit of time? After a bit of time, not a lot. Does there have to be some kind of a way to check? He does it in the presence of the therapists. They're building plans, programs for others. They're making a page on the internet. They're writing. It's all group therapy. The group itself that's dealing with it, these 10 people, they begin working on this. There's many cases that I hear sometimes that the judge gives the guilty person, you did that, now do the opposite. It's standard in psychological treatment. This is psychological treatment at the end of the day. So you're saying there's no point in this process to start, that the man starts talking about himself, his violence. No, you don't need to talk about that. You get him out of it. But through this means, how do you get him out? And if he talks about it, what will it help? I don't think. He'll start feeling sorry for himself. There's situations, especially with women. I used to hit before, and women, and the problems, and the income. I'm a victim of. So there's no point in dealing with it. You don't put a person back into all his problems. The opposite. You raise him up. You give him respect. You give him importance. And that's how you solve the problem. And then in the group, I'm not dealing with myself. I'm your teacher. I'm working across from you, and you're working with him. That's the dynamic. It's talking. They're talking. They're talking how they think is a better way. not just themselves to get out of it, but to work on others. Everyone has to see himself as treating someone else, that he's already over it, and through his experience knows what to recommend to others, how to calm him down, how to recommend what to do so that it won't happen. So you start to pretend you're experts and you become an expert. You rise above their emotional problems and everything. We'll tell them that it's sort of a game. Why is it a game? You have to say to them, you are a special group, you're a special people. We want to make out of you a leading group that will help, that treats people and everything. They need to feel challenged, that they have something special in life now. What you're suggesting is quite revolutionary. It's really a challenge. The problem that I see in implementing it is that it will threaten the experts. That's my whole life. That will really happen. The therapist will say, wait, we're going in, we're verifying everything. So you'll write after that articles. You can write scientific articles about it, put it on the internet, and you'll see how yourselves you'll rise to a different level. I don't think there's place to be afraid. Not us, but our colleagues. We won't be able to act. We're in systems. That depends on a person's character. I say what I say, and in my character, if it's the truth, you have to go for it. Apart from that, if you try to do it sometime, no one will say anything to you. Everyone works in their own area. From your population, it's okay. From mine, it isn't, so on and so forth. Everyone has their own approach. Do you think it will solve the root of the problem? For sure. You're balancing out his ego. You're raising him. He's starting to work with his brain. He's starting to see not his problem, but other people's problems. And if it's not a very intelligent person, most of them are not very intelligent, of course. But you are raising his pride. But how do you bring him through a process so he won't feel it's all intelligent? There's nothing like experience. We will meet after they have tried this, and then we'll continue. They have intelligence. There are people that are, even people that are addicted to all kinds of things and hit the women and everything. They do very nice work with themselves. So good luck. Thank you. Thank you, Rav Laitman. Thank you, Ilanit. And Iran, you're really good luck. Thank you for being with us.